Hi, everyone. I'm Cyrus. I am the product lead for Chromebooks in the commercial segment, which means education, business, government, that whole deal. Everything other than you walking into Best Buy, basically. So here to talk a little bit about Chrome Enterprise, give you a sneak peek into stuff that's coming, and then I will try to save time at the end for questions, because I think that's actually the most fun part. Things you want to know about how it works, interesting behind-the-scenes stuff. There's mics up here, or you can shout it out as soon as we get to Q&A. I'll try to leave 10 to 15 minutes at least for Q&A. So just, jot down, Google Keep, whatever your questions. Oh, this is where I'm supposed to introduce myself. Oh, oops. That's a pretty interesting black and white they did. So I've been at Google 13 years this year. It's a long, it's a very long time at Google standards. And I've been on Chrome OS specifically. Next year will be 10 years. So I was on the initial team, which is pretty exciting. So I've seen the whole ride. I was actually, when I first joined, they said, what do you want to work on? So we have 2 product managers. And I said, my background is in enterprise. I said, I think this product will do well in a managed environment with IT, because they love the idea of a simple, secure endpoint. So that's what I did. I worked on the very first prototype, the CR48. Does anyone remember the CR48? No? Yes, a few people. They're gonna woo back to 3 people remember that. It's a long time ago. It's probably worth money on eBay if you have one, by the way, because we only made 60,000. I was given 16,000 to give out to schools and businesses to go try out and say, would you like a device like this? A lot of your employees are living on the web. What do you think? And they said, yes, can you please take my money? I like this much better than what I'm doing. So we thought we were onto something. And so it's been quite a journey in the decade that's followed, and the stuff that we've added and stuff that we've done. So I'll talk a little bit about that. I like to start with a little bit of context. People wonder, why are you making computers? You guys do all kinds of strange things. Although now they ask that less, since we have driverless cars and all kinds of strange things going on. The background, just so you know, this company was born on the web. Everything we do is web, right? And we want to make sure that we give people the best web experience. So we would optimize the web. We really push the boundaries. For those of you who remember, the web used to be, of course, static web pages, and then we slowly kind of push the boundaries and to do actual applications, right? Gmail was kind of one of its kind, embedded chat. Google Maps, right, with the initial Ajax, where you can zoom, and all these kind of things were very revolutionary at the time. We were pushing the envelope. Bandwidth was still painful, very painful, for those of you that remember dial tones and what you had to go through. And so then we spun up efforts to improve bandwidth, and that's come a tremendous way, right? 2 or 3 different projects we've had at least in bandwidth, and then it became 8 or 9 projects. So we had bandwidth, we had great web apps, and then you had this browser that was just painful. You had toolbars. You guys remember toolbars? People had 3 or 4 different toolbars. The Google toolbar is very popular. And people had 3, and then big buttons for back and forward, and that entire part of your screen took up 50% of your screen, and then there's this small portion below that you would actually scroll to actually get to the content. And the part around the actual content is called the Chrome of the browser. So of course, kind of tongue-in-cheek, we decided to call it Chrome because we actually wanted to get away. Google's in a very unique position where we're not actually interested in you staying in our products for long periods of time. If you think of search, we win when you're out of there fast. You've got your answer and you move on, right? Same with Chrome. Our goal is to get out of the way. Make the content front and center. And so that's actually why we went out and did Chrome. We tried to work with the other browser providers. We worked hard. It was very, very hard. And when we came out with this in 2009 or 8, it was, a lot of people said, do we need another browser? There's already so many browsers. And of course now, Chrome, I think most of you know, is doing pretty well. Largest browser in the world. 2 billion people use the Chrome browser on a weekly basis, which is just staggering when you think about that. So we had kind of addressed web browsing. And then there was the last problem, the third big problem, is you would turn on your computer and you would go to get coffee and you would go take a nap and then you would come back and it would still be booting. And then when you finally got in, startup would take forever. You would log in and pop-ups would come and annoy you, and you were just waiting to click the browser button to get on with your life. And a lot of people can't even remember this. It has been a while. This was the state of computing. It would get slower over time. If any of you have a 5, 6-year-old desktop computer in your basement, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You probably never want to turn on that thing again, right? It's loud. You don't even know what's going on in that thing. This was the computing world back then. The cheapest computer at the time was $450 when we started our journey. And we came out with this completely radical $199 computing, fastest way to get on the web in the world, 5 seconds to boot. So it was very revolutionary at the time, and a lot of analysts credit the Chromebooks and the journey we've been on for kind of completely changing how computing works. And this is a little bit of our journey. It's a lot we've done in 10 years when you look at Chrome and Chrome OS. When Chromebooks came out, a lot of people don't even remember this. This is now way dating. Chrome version 9, I think, 8 or 9. You didn't even have multiple windows. It was just literally a single browser, full screen. That was it. You couldn't minimize. And as strange as this sounds, it drove people crazy that there was no wallpaper. They said, I want to see my wallpaper. And we said, well, there's nothing to see. There's no applications to pin. There's nothing. It's just the web. And they said, well, I still want to minimize it so I can see the wallpaper. There was this very strange thing. So we actually did that. We gave them the ability to slide it away and look at a picture. But that was the very first iteration of Chromebooks. We then added all kinds of features for schools. We added kiosk mode, and we added this cool feature called managed guest sessions. It used to be called public sessions, which is this completely ephemeral way of running a Chromebook. And we then added the entire Play Store, which is crazy. We added the 2 million or whatever applications. So you have the entire mobile application ecosystem on a full desktop browser, which is also never been done. We recently, she just launched in '73, the enterprise controls for full Linux application support. So a lot has happened in a short period of time. So let's go in and look at some of the myths that are out there about Chrome OS. I think these are fun. First, you're only an EDU play, what the heck? Well, first of all, I can tell you about EDU. Phenomenal growth in education, as you probably know. We are #1 in many countries. Every quarter to 2 quarters, we become #1 in another country. Almost 70% share in the United States in education. So phenomenal growth. But the good news is, it's been growing in all the other segments extremely well. This is the non-EDU, this is like the business growth of Chrome OS. And you can see, this is a good trend. We're on the right side of the trend, right? As companies move to the cloud, this is exactly what they want. They want a secure endpoint that is fast, that is shareable, etc. So the rest of the PC market, unfortunately, fortunately, is fairly flat. In many areas, it's -1%, -6%. Overall, in the commercial segment, it's right around flat, 1 to 2%. So this is very good for us to see. And the good news is it's accelerating, not just staying that way. A lot of companies using it. People ask, is this a real thing? And they're using it for a variety of reasons. They're not just using it for your frontline workers, there's people using it for information workers, there's people using it all day long, they're using it for content management, they're using it for ERP, they're using it for point of sale, all kinds of use cases out there. And this is obviously a very small sample of some of the customers that are out there. Do you have enterprise class Chromebooks? Yes. It's got a laser pointer. Oh yeah, of course it won't work. Oh, it does kind of work. This device is an example. I was going to, I don't know if I can mention the name, but I was going to a large hotel chain, and I went to their call center, and they had thousands and thousands of people in this call center, and taking reservations, handling support, and I said, oh, this is awesome. What application are they using? What are they doing? And they said, and this was before Chromebooks even launched. I said, what are they using? And they said, well, they're just using the web. They just use Chrome all day. And I said, oh, that's fantastic. They use Chrome all day. What are they using? He said, well, we've given them Mac Minis. I said, Mac Mini, that's a pretty fancy thing. And you're only in the browser? Oh, yeah. And he said, it's a pain. People take them. They steal them. The shift, they just, and so I said, my gosh, that's, do you want something better? Like, is you just want the web? And they said, yes, absolutely. But we need a headless device because we have big monitors. We want to have our standard keyboards, so we don't want a laptop form factor. So I actually went back. I went back to our team and I said, can you make me something small, no battery, no keyboard, no monitor? And we actually did that. We actually came out with the Chromebox. And actually, the reason I gave that story is because we actually made these devices for enterprise, right? This is actually there's a lot of them now. Almost all the OEMs make these Chromeboxes as well. But we've got Chromeboxes, we've got Chromebooks, we've got convertibles and 360s, we've got detachables, we have tablets, we have stylus, we have all the way to i7 units. We have Core i5U. You can get 16 gig units. You can get Chromebooks that are up to $1,500 Chromebooks. Every major OEM makes Chromebooks. So you can absolutely get enterprise class hardware, any form factor you want, touch, 4K, all of those cool things. So that's another good thing to know. Oh, good. Here we go. Did I do it? Okay, good. They don't really work offline. Gosh, if the number of people that have told me this. There's a lot of people that actually, and I'm not kidding when I say this, probably 10 times I've been asked this. Is this amazing? How does it work? So there's no disk at all. The disk is in the cloud. And I'm like, no. These are still computers. They have a disk. They have everything offline. You need a disk for caching and all of those types of things. So it absolutely works offline. It can work. The web has offline, of course, assuming your web provider has made offline work. And then, of course, the entire Android ecosystem is available. Those applications, all of those 2 million, were actually built offline first. All of them assume offline in a lot of cases. Almost all applications, including web applications, will obviously work better, or in some cases work only on the web, meaning when you're online. That's to be expected. But getting developers to start building offline first is actually very good. It's a good thing for them to do anyway, because the applications tend to be much quicker. They work better in flaky connections. They handle things like syncing, et cetera. So I usually encourage developers, if possible, build in that mode, right? In that way of thinking. So there's tons and tons of offline applications available on Chromebooks, which is just good to know. Does it only do the browser? Well, okay, I probably covered that a few times. Of course, it has the whole mobile application ecosystem, which again is, I think, a super cool, unique thing. When you think about where people are building apps today, no one is dusting off their .NET and C# books and building for Windows. They're building for the web or they're building for mobile. That's it. And so the good news is, when you think about that, it's actually really, really great to have the entire mobile application ecosystem available, as well as the full desktop browser, which is kind of very, very unique. In addition, I mentioned running Linux apps, and it probably is worth saying you can also run legacy Windows applications on a Chromebook, which is great. There's lots and lots of ways to do it. There are providers that stream Windows apps down. You can use on-premise virtualization. There's even on-device virtualization options available now that we have Linux so that you can run your Windows applications. Kind of a little bit Inception, but there's lots of virtualization options. So if you really want to, but the main thing we want to do is for all of these, make sure that it is ultra, ultra secure. None of these should open up new security holes. Everything is containerized. Everything is sandboxed. Nothing gets access to the OS in general anyway. The OS is read-only and blocked from anyone updating it. On a lot of other operating systems, one of the reasons viruses happen and computers get slow is because applications, once they're installed, become super users, right? They can basically do anything. They can modify the OS, they can write to different parts of the registry, they can just kind of litter themselves all over. For those of you that remember, and it's very hard to change this in an OS, although OSs are absolutely all getting better. It's very, very hard. Even uninstall was a big problem in the olden days. You had to go out and find all of the bits that might have been littered out through your operating system. So this was just built in an extremely different way. Oh, there we go. Well, my clicker sometimes doesn't work. Maybe I need to stand here. What about regular updates? How does that all work? So our update mechanism is different. And I think this is one of the extremely unique things about Chromebooks. Every Monday morning, whether you're at school or at a business, when all of your employees lift the lids and start working, they're all running exactly the same version of the OS, which is in itself remarkable. All updates are delivered entirely from the cloud. There's nothing to do on-prem, etc. But there's a few differences with how we do updates. First of all updates are completely seamless to the user. They're done in the background, and the reason we can do them in the background is every Chromebook has two versions of the operating system at all times. There's an A and a B copy. As you're running on A, B gets updated. And of course, we don't update the whole thing. It's just Delta updates, right? Every 6 weeks or whatever, just the bits that need to change are changed. As soon as we reboot, or as soon as the user reboots, and by the way, because it's so fast, this is another interesting tidbit that a lot of people don't even know. Most people at Google don't know this. Because booting is so fast, because it's like 5-6 seconds, when you log out and you get back to the login screen, if an update is ready, we will actually do a full reboot and take you back to the login screen, and most people don't know. Oh, that logout took a few extra seconds. And they're back at the login screen, but we've actually not only done a full reboot, but we've swapped, and we are now running on OS B as the primary OS. At the same time that we do that, 2 of the seconds of the boot are actually taken up by something we call verified boot, which is actually an entire process to verify the operating system. We verify every bit of the operating system to make sure it is exactly what we expect. So in the event that we have missed something and something squeaked through and was able to compromise the OS, we won't even let you boot with that OS. We will revert back to A and boot. So this is actually all the stuff that goes on when you boot a Chromebook, and it all happens completely in the background, which is pretty nice. I think that's good on this. I kind of started alluding to this, right? How can they be so secure if there's no antivirus? I don't get it. And I cannot tell you how many companies have said, I don't get it, I really want an antivirus. And I said, well, I don't know what to tell you. There's no such thing. You cannot have a virus. I shouldn't say that. You don't need an antivirus as of now because there is no such concept as something compromising the OS in a persistent way that wouldn't be detected when you boot. So one, how do we do this? And how has this even been possible after 10 years of employees and hackers and students? By the way, students are some of the best hackers in the world because they want nothing more than to use their computer to go surf inappropriate things. And so it's really fantastic that we have penetrated all of that. First is the OS itself. It's kind of kept completely locked down. Nothing gets access to the OS. Again, I can tell you all kinds of interesting stories since I've been on the team for so long, but there's a small shell that you can actually run called the cross shell, for those of you that know about this, where you can actually run some basic commands. They didn't take an entire operating system and then build Chrome OS on top of that. They actually did the opposite. They said, we need the Chrome browser. What are the minimum pieces we need underneath it to make it work, period? That's what we're going to put in. The command ping, for those of you that know what that command is, the most basic, simple command in the world. There was an email thread about whether we should allow ping. They look with that level of detail because every single thing you add is potentially another vector, another threat. So they're very, very, very careful about what they add. Nothing can get into the operating system. If any channel is open to get access to the operating system, it's only done under using private Google APIs that we have. The second thing we do is we sandbox everything. We sandbox the entire browser process. Within the browser process, we sandbox each tab. The entire Android container is sandboxed. Every app within the Android container is then in a separate sandbox. So things, defense in depth is, of course, used in security, in physical security, and in software security. This is exactly what you want. Things would have to hop out of many, many containers and sandboxes to get access. Then I mentioned we also have verified boot in case we've missed something. And of course, we have humans that do all kinds of reviewing of extensions and apps. We also have, which is pretty cool, we have a lot of AI and ML that actually reviews all of the application and application updates that come in the Play Store, in the Web Store. Things are automatically taken down before a human even sees it, which is also pretty cool, which is very hard to do given the scale. Is this an enterprise class device? Can I run this in my company? Well, the good news is yes. There's a lot of stuff in there. There is 200 plus different policies that you can set. The good news is almost no one sets anything close to that. They need like 15 or 16 different controls at most. But the options are there if you need a lot of advanced stuff. There's full fleet management here. But the nice thing I will say about this is the stuff that's in here is entirely cloud-based. So the entire management of your fleet is entirely cloud-based, right? A lot of people don't know this, but our management system, it's the largest cloud-based EMM in the world, or MDM, for those of you that know what that is. No cloud EMM in the world manages as many devices as this one does. Tens of millions of active devices running. Another 10 million devices just in education gets enrolled into the console in just a period of a few months in July and August. And Google doesn't feel it at all, right? It's one of the benefits of having the scale. The IT administrator can be on their phone, on their car ride home, hopefully not while driving, and can actually go in and make changes, look at their fleet, disable a device, lock one down if it's stolen, those types of things. You can do all of that entirely from here, which is nice. Provisioning a Chromebook, enrolling a Chromebook, for those of you that have done it, is, I think, about 7 seconds. I mean, you think about a different OS, I won't say who, how long that takes to provision that and enroll that and image that and get that with all the applications that you need. It's not 7 seconds. So that's pretty exciting. And of course, all the applications, extensions, everything you do is done from here as well, which is kind of nice. And I think this may be the last myth, I don't know, but let's see. Can you integrate with your legacy IT world? Because I have a legacy, and how do I handle that? And every company does, though, which is the good news, unless you're a small business, very small SMB, or you grew up in a serverless company, which the new ones do, fortunately. Most new companies don't bring out big servers and stick them under their desks. So yes, there's lots of options here. First of all, you can actually, if you really love Active Directory and SCCM and group policy, you can manage your Chromebooks using that. It's more painful, name value pairs and JSON blobs, but if you really love that, that can be how you manage your Chromebooks. You can, of course, access MS Office if you need for your employees. There's actually lots of different ways to do that. Of course, there's native web ways to do that. There's Android versions to do that. There's the full Office functionality if you really need that team that needs the Excel macros and their VB stuff from 1997. So all of that is there. And SSO, certificates, 802.1 Ethernet, all of the stuff that you think you might need. Are we done? No. There's an enormous list of stuff that companies need. But the good news is, whenever we talk to almost every CIO I've ever talked to, I don't need to convince them that this is a better model for them. Anyone that's ever tried it and tested it is like, I love it, I want to expand this. But they say, this is the stuff I need, right? So that's exactly the right place to be, right? We are in exactly the right situation because we're on the right side of the trend. We already have natural pull from CIOs. So it's just a matter of making sure this has all the enterprise capabilities. There's an entire dedicated team that just works on making sure you've got all of the enterprise functionality you need. Of course, you could run it today, you'd have to do some workarounds, et cetera, but we want you to be able to run it with everything that you possibly need. Okay, let me see what is next. Okay, what's coming up? Now the sneak peeks. Now no photos. Is what true? No photos? No photos for this part. There will be some very exciting stuff here. So this part here is a little bit a sneak into what's coming and how we think about the vision of Chromebooks in the future. When we think about everything that we're building, we really think about two sections, right? The first is, of course, we're talking about for the end user. That's where our life begins. That's our world. Secure and productive. Those are the two things that we want to make sure that they are. They're secure and they're productive, okay? And we'll talk about those in a second. And the second piece, of course, is the IT department. Many times, unfortunately, more important than the end user because they're also the ones buying and deciding and deploying and doing all of that. Making sure that they have very powerful, easy-to-use endpoint management is very important. And we'll talk about both of these really quick, and I'll give you some glimpses into stuff that is coming, which I think is pretty cool. Let's talk briefly about the end user. The first thing is very assistive. We want to, and when I say assistive, by the way, I don't mean the Google Assistant, which is amazingly cool. You can ask it a question. You can do hands-free assistant now on Chromebooks, and you can just say the magic words, which I won't say, or everyone here with an Android phone will listen to my voice. But being able to ask it questions and all that is great. But what we mean here is when you think about an operating system today, every operating system you've ever used, whether you're using Windows or you're using a Fruit or whatever you're using, when you use it, it's a very reactive system, right? It's just waiting. It's sitting there and it says, tell me, wait for me to click something. And it's not helpful, right? It should actually know you're about to enter the meeting that you entered the same time yesterday with the same 3 people, and should just nudge you and say, hey, by the way, this is the presentation you guys are working on last time. Do you want to open it, right? It should do it only if it has an extremely high confidence level that that's what it is, right? That's how all AI and ML is all just based on probability. But that's actually what it should do. These are simple things to do, actually, if you are a company with AI and ML instinctively. But these are the types of things that you're going to start seeing. You're going to see an operating system that is actually going to help you. Now, interestingly, by the way, there's a lot of AI and ML actually within a Chromebook today that a lot of people don't know. There's amazingly cool stuff in there. Not just machine learning around your preferences around brightness and time of day and how much you like it and adjusting it. Your personal habits when you're running different apps for what we should discard, how to optimize your battery life, your performance, when we should crank it up. All of those types of things are actually it's actually on-device ML that is running those things to make it smart in the background. But we want smart even for the end user directly for their applications. The next one is productive. This is also extremely important. For those of you that live like me with 29 tabs open, or probably 70, and they all just become these tiny little icons. Does anyone use a lot of tabs like I do? Yes. Yes. It drives me insane. First of all, I can't even see what it is, and that also drives me insane. So fixing that is all coming. Do not worry. There's absolutely going to be better tab management and tab groupings and all kinds of things. But even taking it a step further to be able to have, of course, multiple desktops. This has been around in operating systems for a long time. But doing even cooler things, like if you are in a different mode or in a different workspace, being able to take all of that work and name it as a workspace, keep it synced on any device that you use, get into focus mode. So right now I'm only in this workspace and I don't want to be disturbed or accidentally go to any other things. All of those types of things, we have seen that they work. And so you should see a lot of this cool stuff coming out. Flexibility, of course, is important. I've already covered this slide, but just want to bring it up again that it's very important that people work the way they like. If you are the type of person that really prefers touch, or you really prefer a tablet, you really prefer detachable, and you want to take out the keyboard every once in a while, you should be able to have that option. And then IT, what's coming in this space? So, two things they care about. I want to do everything I can possibly do, and I want it to be easy to use. When you think about what IT departments care about, they usually want two things, right? They want visibility and they want control. Right? Visibility means I just want to be able to see and know everything that's going on. What are people installing? What are they doing? Why are they driving me crazy? What security things are they doing now? And they want to make it really, really, really easy to control those things. So, first thing is simple. I mentioned this before. We have obviously a ton of policies, but we also do something very simple called smart defaults, where we actually go through every single policy and make sure that it's already set to what we think will be the best experience and the most secure for you. We always err on the side of the more secure option, and then let you turn things on as you want. This means you don't need to go mess with 50 things to get it running. You can actually do none of them, and then you can slowly decide which things you want to turn on, control, turn off, etc. So this one I talked about. Scalable, I mentioned this. Tens of millions of devices handled entirely from the cloud. You never need to worry about adding new servers or anything to manage your devices, which I think is great. There are several deployments of Chromebooks with more than 100,000 devices at any organization, both schools and businesses. And what's actually even more interesting than that is most of them didn't hire a single additional IT person, which is staggering when you think about 180,000 in one situation, and they didn't hire anyone additional. Oh, good. Thank you so much. You can come see me. I'll probably be here for 1 minute.